right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call on here, and John Burke, the town manager's here, and then we also have in attendance representatives from the Department of Public Works, Greg Hanover, as well as Colin Kelly, who are director and town engineer. And we have Jeannie Bislowski, who's what do we call you for this?
Minute taker.
Franny, and Officer Nick Soja, who's here for a couple of issues.
After minutes, do you want to maybe do Triton Square first?
Sure. Yep. That works for me. So we've all had an opportunity to review the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second. I'm in favor.
We're in trouble with one decision.
That's approved. So, and we're going to forego with reading, right?
John Reiner and or Deb Jones are going to be present to talk
Yeah.
about the trends.
They're in their office right now. They just said text them if we need them. Do you want them?
Okay, no, I was just, I
Okay.
thought they were coming. Okay.
And that's what you're here for, is Triton Square?
I am, yes.
Okay, sure. So we'll jump down onto moving ahead in the agenda to Roman numeral 5, number 2, which is 2022-100 Triton Square, 55 City School Drive, request for administrative determination of no impact on state highway system. So
Sure,
again, for the record, could you just state your name?
sure. I'm Emily Foster with SLR Consulting. We were the site designers, but I'm specifically a traffic engineer for the project. And so we submitted an OSTA application on behalf of the project and are looking for an administrative LTA concurrence for the AD review.
Did the Department of Transportation have any questions or concerns about it? They voiced anything to you?
No, they did give us a list of comments, but basically just updates to the site plan, which I sent you guys the updated one. I have a copy here too if you want to see it.
They will need to see it. Yeah.
Okay, but nothing in terms of safety or traffic concerns.
Could we take a look at that? Could you
Of
maybe
course.
explain some of the,
Yeah,
are you an engineer?
I am, yes. I'm a civil. So I have an illustrated site plan, which is always nicer and easier to see. Want me to like stand up and show you guys?
We're gonna look at these guys, but they're the engineers.
Okay.
So,
Sure, so it's a residential development. It will have 304 dwelling units, 43 studio apartments, 184 one bedroom, 77 two bedroom, and a total of 358 parking spaces, including 32 handicap and van spaces. So this is just the site, and it's the old Sealy School. And there is a lot of different amenities, including pool, there's a play escape and dog park, and a new retention basin.
if I'm looking at that, it appears there's 2 entrances and exits. Are they both, bi-directional?
Sure, so this will, the number 1, off of Walker Hill Road will be a new, and that's their primary access way, and that'll be 2-way. And then the existing one that is for the school, on Sealy School Drive, that'll just be emergency access, and there'll be a gate.
So the main access is the one to the northwest, like, or
North.
north, yeah, north of the,
And that was sort of
Right next
part
to
of
the
being,
water.
that's sort of being friendly with the neighbor, kind of a friendly thing to do with the neighbors originally when I was first
so,
involved. Yeah.
okay. Have you received any correspondence from anybody, any other than the state, or any concerns? with you?
I guess the state did receive correspondence about site distance and just safety along I think it was along the Sealy School, actually. So we did go out there. I personally went out there and observed the sight lines at this location. And it is on a hill, but you do see enough past the speed limit for a safe sight distance to be able to decide to turn. There's also an always stop, I believe, just.
Right, yeah, so there's no need for a traffic light or anything like that?
No, the traffic volumes are not, we did like their traffic analysis, and they won't affect. We did the analysis on the state road up here, and they won't affect the operations. We also had a peer review, the town did a peer review on our traffic study. They had a bunch of comments to add some more intersections, so we followed all those and they have no further comments. And
What do you mean add intersections?
add intersections to the analysis
Oh,
to make sure
understood.
that they operate.
Okay.
So that's the plan, and then I do have the OSTA site plan. If you guys need to see that.
Greg, what,
Public Works, we reviewed this plan during the site plan review process. They've addressed all our comments. And, what they're proposing is adequate for traffic.
I'm comfortable with it then.
Okay.
I'll move to it. Approve or whatever thing.
One second. All in favor?
Aye.
So
Yeah, of course.
thank you for your explanation there. That's helpful.
Yeah. No problem. Do you want the other OSTA too?
Thanks for spending some time with us.
Yeah, thank you.
You didn't have to stay too long.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's one more look for anyone out there. Just touched base yesterday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
This
Okay,
officer will send them right in.
okay. Do we want to hold that off? in case
Yeah.
it goes, or-
Sure. You want to jump to Westminster
Sure.
Avenue?
Mhm.
So it's on the agenda here. I know we've discussed this, and myself and the town manager have both gone out there to look at Westminster Ave. Gee, we may have gone out there too, if I recall. I remember going out there.
We
a couple
did drive down it. Yeah.
So we'll come to that.
I didn't include anything because we're kind of still working on a plan, with some of their suggestions, crosswalks, stop signs, optical illusions.
So what prompted it to be on the agenda today?
We haven't made any formal
Okay.
decisions.
No, I know that I seem to recall that we had talked about striping. And then obviously that's something that you guys in Public Works wouldn't do until the summer months, right?
Right.
Or whatever
We
you
did get a
contract.
price for that. It was like $5,000 to have our vendor come and do that. But after we got the price, we received notice from Aquarium, they're gonna be out there replacing water main on that whole road, so it doesn't make sense to spend that money on striping if we have it just up.
Now, when, after they rip up and just,
Schedule from them yet? No.
could we get them to stripe it the way we want when they're
We
done?
could.
Okay, let's do that for sure then. I think we did approve the striping before, didn't we?
We did, I thought so too.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
a year or so ago. Yeah, we did that. But yeah, so can you give I know you're in contact with some of the neighbors, right? We let them know.
All right. That we're basically not gonna do anything until after. the
Right,
hearing,
right,
Okay,
right. Mhm.
I'm sorry for jumping.
So just one, I'm thinking, while it's torn up and they're doing that, is there any other things like crosswalks, other things that make sense to do anything while it's torn up and being rebuilt? Is there anything that we should look at?
we were talking about handicap accessible.
Yeah, the concern has been stop signs, additional stop signs.
You've seen that sidewalk, it's like
Yeah,
3 feet above the road to get. Put in 88 sidewalks here.
okay.
Like the ramps for either new or existing crosswalks.
We can take a look to see if there's. Crosswalks.
Yeah, if you just take a look, yeah. You'll let us know once you have their timeline. Once you get a coordinate
Yes.
timeline. Okay. Is it gonna be this summer, do you think, or do you
I
not?
think it's a side. I think three streets, or something like that. One was Godfrey and I don't know.
I'm just curious, any future questions in this?
Maybe it's questionable.
Why don't we go on, if we're good, maybe we'll complete the old business. There is some public communications, but I know that's Pearl Street and High Street, but I do have some other things that I kind of want to bring up under public communications, although they're not on the agenda. Just some follow-ups, but can we proceed to new business 2022-99, request for no parking signage along Oslo Street, 8 AM to 4 PM, Monday through Friday.
The memo from town councilor Kasiri and some pictures of traffic when kids are being dropped off.
We got a pretty detailed email from town councilor Melinda Kasiri about this area, and I think primary concern is based on school attendance. I'll probably get some of the highlights. No one really good thing.
I just read it.
So two primary issues. It's a pretty detailed email, but it says parents and bus drivers have identified that motor vehicles parked on the side of Oslo Street during pickup and drop-off times creates a hazard for both parents and bus drivers. Parents are concerned about children who have to cross the street on Oslo to get to school without crosswalks or crossing guards. So I think that if I understand it correctly, I think that sums it up about potentially having some parking spots. I guess my question would be is if that would cause any hardship for the neighbors, they would voice alternate concerns. Nick, do you work in that area much?
Yeah. It's during drop off and pickup. I'm usually just seen drop off in the morning. It gets pretty backed up and congested there, and the people come and go, cars parked on the road. I'd say it's a legitimate concern.
Okay. I suppose we could define the hours, right?
Yeah, I was just thinking that, we could, find them around.
Yep.
those.
Yeah, right, during, yeah, exactly.
What about the afternoon pickup?
I guess we probably want it, I would say half hour before school ends to half hour after. Whatever that, I think that hour window.
Yeah, I think that's good.
It kind of splits the baby a little bit. It doesn't, people can park there if they need to, but
She did point out near SB Butler, it's Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. So that's it. It's closed. I think Butler's closed now, but
okay.
That's how they address that.
I'd be in favor of doing that. Are you good
The
with that?
Poland or the.
Well, I
two?
think that try and tailor it to those hours. Maybe
Yeah.
we put
Try
the,
that first.
Yeah.
See how it goes. Yeah.
all right.
Okay.
I'll make that in the form of a motion.
A second.
Clarification, you would want it maybe a half an hour either side of the start of
Yeah,
school.
yeah,
So if
so-
school starts at 8, 7:30.
8:30, right?
Perfect, okay.
And then a similar time period in the
Okay.
afternoon.
How long do you think it'll take before we'd have Bill do signage for that? Wonder if we should give a heads up to the school there, just maybe they can let parents know and.
They'll high side it and say 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And in 2 weeks, they're like, where is it?
Yeah, manage expectations.
Just to clarify, on both sides of the street. Son?
Yeah, did you get the pictures? I'll give you the. if you
Yeah,
want.
I did say I didn't bring them. I didn't print out the whole package.
Both sides.
The request for both sides.
You don't have to be specific. How about this? How about as part of that, we we'll ask Public Works to determine the most effective manner to place those signs, whether it's on one side or both.
Because if you're on the side of the school, I mean, you shouldn't, they're walking along there, they should be able. As long as it's not, you know, they wouldn't be crossing the street, because you wouldn't have cars across the street, it seems to me. Like across the street would probably be enough from the school, what do you thought?
That if we only did one side, you mean?
What about the morning hours? It's on the right-hand side. Oh, that would be silly, but morning hours, right-hand side, leaving left-hand side.
Well, I think you'd want them both, because either way, you don't want cars parked across the road and crossing the street. That's for sure.
Sides.
Both sides, okay.
I'm gonna go check and see if anybody's here again.
And,
Just-
and we do that Ragnar events too.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a number of them. Like I said, I
Yeah.
had an agenda item, but I didn't do the agenda ready, so it didn't print out. So we do have a number that I've received today.
Okay.
Betsy sent it to me, Eileen.
And and I don't know why the woman sent it to the town clerk when she had been in discussions with one of our lieutenants. So, but I think everybody got
We
it.
got it back here.
Do you want me to run through them? Which one is which?
So you had mentioned the Ragnar race.
Yeah, so a number of requests have come in. Most of them are annual road events, just the 2022 requests. So we've got the Mystic Half Marathon scheduled for May 15th. Same route, same time frame. Everything is the same on that one. We have the 2 Parks and Rec, the 4th of July parade, July 4th, and the Tour de Noink on June 11th from 9 to 12. And the third one is the Mystic Irish K 5K road race, March 26th. Same route, same times, everything is the same on that one.
Did we already discuss the Mystic Irish parade?
That got
at the last
issued.
meeting? Okay.
Yep, that was a
You know,
verbal email.
Okay, that's
Yep.
right.
And the last one, she did mention, I haven't been talking to her, I think Lieutenant Wolf has been. So it looks like the Ragnar road race, it's a 200-mile road race, and they'll be in our part of Groton on May 20th
So,
between 5 a.m. and 2:30.
so some background on this. Chief Stewart from Stonington called me. If you'll recall, last year they came through. I don't think there were any approvals, or we were even aware that this race was going to happen last year. It did cause problems. Again, I don't know if you're working during that event or not, but it was, after my discussion, apparently they approached the Stonington Board of Police Commissioners, and they encouraged the group to make contact with us for the traffic authority to make sure that we were aware of it, and that we approved it as well. And that's what precipitated the call from Chief Stewart to me. So that I'm glad we have a heads up this year. I think we'll have to monitor it closely to make sure that there are no issues, but
It looks like 2:15, and then they're gonna go through Haley Brook, and then they're gonna go around Bluff Point, and then end in the city.
I was just going to the city for the North of Fair portion. Are they aware of it?
And she did mention, I believe she's working with Lieutenant Jennings
Okay.
with the city police department.
See any issues with this one?
no, but it's as long as they.
Yeah,
So
that's
this
pretty
year, we
much-
at
that's
least
the
know
route.
about it. Last year, we did not.
So you got 2:15, and then kind of goes through Haley Brook, or Haley Farm, down near the airport. Down to
Like a motion just to make a formal for all of them to approve?
Sure.
Yeah, I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Aye.
Is that under public communication?
I meant to have an agenda item for it. It was a technical error. I didn't check a box, so it didn't get printed on the agenda.
We have two, not to belabor the other issues too much, but just as there are two things that we have left on the agenda, but there's a couple of things I just want to kind of put on the record, if that's all right. I've received some correspondence recently. The first was about Route 1 and Flanders Road. I know we have talked about that before at previous meetings. In fact, Councilor Jones had spoken to me about that. There's an interest in putting a crosswalk there. We have discussed this with DOT officials. The explanation that was given to me is DOT may approve it, but the town would then be required to fund any of the changes there, which would require, there was I believe it was GOSA that was looking for a crosswalk. Potentially a stoplight, if I recall correctly. Blinking lights, I'm sorry. There is no, the state may not have an objection to that. I don't think we've gotten a formal ruling. This is more informal. But what they were very clear about is the state is not going to pay for any of that. So any costs associated with installing lights and putting a crosswalk in, signage, all that would fall on the town. And I don't want to make promises, Greg, for your budget, things that you need to do. I don't know if that, I'm under the impression it might be a rather sizable cost. I did explain that to Councilor Jones, that we had looked into that, but there were, although it's a state road, the state, because it's not something they see the need for, they would allow the town to do that, but we would have to pay for it and maintain it. So I just throw that to get some of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, we have looked at doing these at a few other crosswalks, like some pedestrian activated flashing. Another state's putting a couple in project. I think this summer, one at Human Services, that crosswalk, and one up by 12 there. So I mean, I think it's, you know, they're expensive. I mean, it's probably $30,000 intersection to put these solar lights in, crosswalk and signage, you know, so it might be a good project if there's some grants come along. There's some safety grants up there. Dollars that come along, municipalities can apply to or directly. That might be a good project to do.
So
I have not put it in the CIP.
So I guess the response, if we get further inquiries on this, that explanation about how the town has to fund it, but we may look to see if it's available through grants. Nothing immediately available, but in the future that could be something explored. On a very closely related issue, the traffic authority had previously sent a letter or concurred. I think I sent an email to the state on Groton Long Point Road. There was a request from multiple residents to reassess the speed limit on the road. They did and found that the speed limit would not be changed. There was a request to have it reduced. There was also some requests for, I think, a similar request for a crosswalk near Bridge Street, not Brook Street. I'm sorry. Same commentary on that, which would require the town to do all the signage, the markings, and that sort of stuff. And there was also recently, and forgive me, I didn't bring the email with me, but I spoke with a lady that you had referred to me. That you should send an email. Gail Scally. I spoke with her yesterday, I think it was, and she had asked about where we were with that. There was a request for bike lanes. Again, DOT has kind of given tentative approval, but that would be on the town. So I don't know if that's something that we're able to, if I can go back to her and give her any information. I don't know if you're prepared to offer any guidance.
I talked with Kevin, I guess there was miscommunication between the district and Newington. So he called me directly. He had a list of changes he wanted us to make to the plan, which I've done that. I have one more thing to add to the plan, and then we can send it up.
Okay.
He said basically the same thing, that it would be on us to do, but he didn't see anything do with the state.
Okay. She had also in our conversation asked if there's any possibility of adding additional stop speed limit signs. I didn't offer any assurances to that, but I did say that the town, the police department is looking into purchasing more of the solar powered signs that have speed limit aluminum, you know, the detector ones. I said, should that get approved and we get those, that we would certainly make it our top priority to put one of those on Groton Long Point Road, which may help address some of their concerns.
Is there rule, could we put in a couple extra speed signs along there?
I think DOT would have to do it.
Is that what it is? Okay. Now, in terms of the bike lanes, would that be much to do?
No, it's just, I think the signs are already there, it's just painting some symbols on the pavement. We did want to do double, but they denied that,
They denied that.
for whatever reason, I'm not sure why. They want to, make it more prominent,
Right.
so people don't cross over that line.
You may need to have a few more signs and pavement markings, just based on their standards for distance and speed.
And the last item, two items. Number one, you mentioned Kevin Ing. Kevin Ing did come out, was it 2 weeks ago? The reason he came out is I had received several emails over the course of a weekend indicating that the stoplight at Groton Long Point Road and Route 1 seemed to be fouled, that it wasn't, it was only a very short duration that people could get off of Groton Long Point Road, and there was no traffic on Route 1. They came out, he brought some other individuals from their electrical services division. They spent the afternoon. He did call back the other day, I think it was last Friday, and spoke to me and said they had made some changes to that light. So I don't know if this is stuff we can put in the minutes just so we can share it, but he did respond to me, he says, yeah, after that day that we went out there, looked at it, I went up there with them, talked about some of the problems that I witnessed and that we see during the day when school is getting out or coming in. So I appreciate the fact that they came out, they actually came to the site to look at it and discussed a couple of those issues. And in the last piece of correspondence, I did receive an email from Representative Conley and her aide regarding Hazelnut Hill Road and Route 117, as well as the intersection of 117 and 184, that she has gotten some communications from constituents. I'm not sure how many, but she said that more than one indicating some concerns about speed. But there was also a request about a traffic light, some changes to the intersection with Hazelnut Hill Road. We've since that time done some research. I said that I would bring it up at this meeting, so that's why I'm doing it now. Jeannie did some research. I knew this topic had come up before, but Hazelnut Hill Road, when there was an addition put on to Pequot Health Center, I guess the state did look at that, the feasibility of a traffic light, determined it wasn't necessary. But this issue has been brought up multiple times. First in 2006, it was brought to the traffic authority. It was brought to the traffic authority in 2009 and then in 2012. And I seem to recall, asked this Jeannie, that we may have, that was before my tenure, we may have addressed this or received similar calls in the last several years about this very issue. The best that we can do is forward it to the state unless we have an informal recommendation from the traffic authority. I drive that intersection twice a day. I think I understand the concerns, but I don't know that the town should.
So just ask them to look at it.
Yeah, we can ask them to take a look at it. It's right by 95, so I'm sure there's other impactors to that. But I know we've gotten multiple requests, and I think they all come from, at least a couple of them come from the same person that's asked us to look at it again.
And it appears the outcome to all of those was we're gonna send a letter to the state, you know?
So we can do that, and if you concur, I'll take care of that. We'll send something from here to have them look at it, and I'll copy Representative Conley on that. Any other correspondence or public communications? So,
Will they back up the high?
yeah.
Okay.
We also have Bruce Flaxseed from the chamber. You have the Frank sign, just for the record, so we keep track of that.
I'll go on record.
Thanks. But the next issue is, moving back up, is 2022-102, discussion of the potential removal of certain parking spaces on High Street and New London Road and Pearl Street. This is
We actually, public works, we put no parking signs out this morning on Pearl Street, down by Cliff, and also on High Street, from Route 1, across the street from the Baptist Church. Those two areas.
we have Do we have the emails along with it? So I just, is the gentleman online, is he for this issue?
Tom, are you here for a particular issue? Are you here for High Street or just generally here?
Oh, good afternoon. I certainly am interested in on the discussion of the removal of parking spaces on Pearl Street. I saw it on the agenda and thought I would join you all to understand what the issue is and probably support the removal of certain parking spaces,
Right.
because I heard, I couldn't hear Mr. Hanover quite well, but I think he said something about Cliff Street in Pearl, and that obviously is an issue in our neighborhood.
Yeah, that action was actually taken in August of 21. He was just reporting that it's been accomplished as of, just this morning, that they were put in. Because we've all, our officers have all observed, many of them have observed issues there. Right now, this is the focus is the High Street from one of the road boundaries.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I wasn't out this morning, so I didn't notice it. Is this can I speak to another issue during this public communications section or not?
Let us finish this issue and then we can hear from you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, yep. So we were approached we had quite a few neighbors come tonight, didn't we? Yeah, we had quite a few neighbors worried about the safety along there. We had an officer report on, I don't know if that was you or not, or who was here last time, but
The Pearl Street one?
the High Street, further down, what are the boundary roads?
Kim Snyder was here.
Okay.
It was right after the police bar test, so she had fresh issues.
It's on the website. It goes,
Spelled out in the minutes. There's about.
So does the parking on the other side, the parking on both sides, right?
Right, right, and
So you guys are looking at removing one side.
one side, right?
Yeah, that's what we've been asked.
Because we've seen a lot of issues there, people
Yeah.
having trouble getting vehicles through.
And
We
then
had
the
quite a
other
few
one-
neighbors come out for it.
The other one's on here where it's, it looks like it's High Street right by the church.
Right.
There's a couple there that you guys, is there parking on both sides there or just one side?
I believe there's no parking there. Nick, I'm going to defer to you. You work down there a lot.
Part of the problem is we've had a lot of complaints because you know, with them at the bottom of the hill, there's there's site issues, safety issues there.
Yeah, I know from the corner from West Main going up on the, I guess it'd be on the east side of the road. I'm not 100% sure without going down, just how far up it was.
Mhm.
I went on Google this morning to take a look at it, the street view. There was one sign there. Like I said, I'm not sure how far up, but that is kind of a tricky area.
I think we marked it from the corner to number 126, which is the first house on the east side. We had marked that, no parking up to that.
And Greg, you said you,
That's what we did this morning.
Okay.
Is that east side. Going up to that first house.
and that was a new signage that was replacing old signage?
No, that was the east side.
It was, okay. Is that what they're looking for? Or if they want additional areas?
Well, now we're just looking for it. So we'd already approved the further down High Street. And so Bruce, being the director of the chamber, wanted to just hear more about it before we actually enact it. First, if you can, Nick, tell us what you've seen out there.
I mean, High Street is, it's not as bad as like Pearl or Gravel, but it's, it's not a very wide road with parking on both sides. It does get pretty tight, especially, you get delivery trucks that are coming down High Street.
When there's cars on both sides, it's like only one lane you can get through, is that?
I'd say it's probably like a lane and a half.
Okay.
So
I see, you know, I see a lot of people, one pulls over, so they can go, a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
So what is your recommendation?
So we're talking.
Put it all on you, Nick.
We're basically talking between like Academy Lane. Not past Burroughs, right?
Yeah, does it need to go that far or is it?
Probably. Because if you're going up the hill, like once you hit the crest of the hill, it kind of bottlenecks a little bit. So if they were looking to park on one side of the road,
Yep.
that would probably help alleviate quite a bit.
It looks like it goes down to Burrows. I think.
We had said, so now the west side between Burrows and High Lane would be marked no parking.
My lake goes actually north of Concord.
Far.
Do you think it's needed that far out?
Probably not that far up.
So-
I mean,
So we started at Burrows, what do you think?
once you get north of Academy Lane, it gets better.
Does it?
Yeah.
Why don't we start with just, to Academy Lane and see how that goes? Kind of alleviates. Thoughts, Bruce?
That'd be great.
Okay. Do it in steps. See
It's
if we can
still
help.
just the west side.
Just the west side, yeah, yeah.
I think from the chamber side of things, we just, with the whole parking thing that's going on and,
Mm.
I think the council's gonna take it up, right?
At some point,
At
yes.
some point, and Stonington needs to take it up and,
Daniel just reached out to me too.
She did.
We're gonna set up a meeting with
Okay.
everybody pretty quick here.
because I think that I've talked to a lot of people and some people are like, there's a big parking problem in this thing, and others say, you know what? There really isn't, because if you have the, light boat parade going on in Mystic and the track tree going on in Stonington, and everyone parked and everyone got to the event, then
Right. You just have to
you
walk
just have to
away.
walk a little bit.
Right.
So, but I know that there's, that whole consultant and that whole proposal was put together. I know Todd Brady wanted to come, but he couldn't make it because I think he's very pro paid parking, on the street downtown.
I think what we're gonna do first is next month, we'll have that consultant, because there's a lot of council members. So we're gonna have him come in and do a presentation, and I'll be sure to invite you and everyone else to
Yeah,
watch.
that'd be good. Yeah.
And just get everyone up to speed so we can kick it back off again. That'll be good. Now, what I get most of my complaints about is from the neighborhoods, I mean, I do get people complaining about not finding parking, but mostly it's, we get so many complaints. I want all one way, I want no parking my whole street. I want,
Yeah,
everything.
And frankly, this is our respite these months where we,
Yeah,
knock on wood, don't get a lot of these
Yeah.
complaints, but come April, May, June, July, August, September, we're gonna get
Sure.
inundated. It's like a daily occurrence.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think, obviously you have to respect the neighbors and
Yeah.
just want to make sure we're, doing this the right amount,
right.
So.
That's part of the issue is that, it's often jumping to the full, no parking anywhere,
I think we've got to somehow strike a balance.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's what we try to do.
I mean, the neighbors move in, know most of, what kind of area it is. So.
Right. I know, just reading the emails, you had been copying on some correspondence on this as well, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Rita Schmidt, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think she was talking about the traffic light at Water Street. I think you had talked, everything about that.
Yeah,
some
that
history.
there was a, that's right, I forgot about that. We did, and I talked to Kevin from DOT, and yes, there was a proposal at one point in time to put when the streetscape was done, I think. Kevin had the whole history on it, and I do have it in my office, but to make a long story short, he said, we had looked at that. He says, and if the town wanted to pursue a stoplight there, we could look into it. However, you got to realize you're going to lose a lot of parking spaces in downtown Mystic. And he went over the spots that we would lose. He got on a map right online as we were talking about this. And he says, I can see, and for some reason, the 11 sticks out in my head. It may have been more than that, but he had looked at on both sides of the roadway, just based on the engineering of it. You may be able to speak to that a little bit. There's spots that we would lose just right off the bat to put a traffic light in there. And I can appreciate where Rita Smith's coming from. That can be a little bit of a difficult intersection. Have we had accidents there? I believe so, but I don't think it's,
Not one of our
yeah,
heavier accident
Right.
areas.
right. And I mean, it's,
Any people clipped there? Car on person?
we had a car but that was during the Art Fest. That was a different
Yeah,
story. It
that
was
was-
right in that area. That was a different issue.
Okay.
But someone did get hit during the setup for the Art Fest.
Right.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
Next go, yeah.
There was one further down Water Street.
There
That was
was.
other
That was a
circumstances
different
caused
one.
that
Yeah,
one.
that was a different one.
I would think if they put a light in there, it would almost, like the number of people who turn onto Water Street from the bridge, like, and having a light there, it would never coordinate itself because with the, I don't know, it seems like
I
people are
think the only,
friendlier letting people in than it is.
it would only help the people turning left to go up the hill.
Yeah,
And the
Right,
rest, it
right,
would,
right.
And people are pretty good about stopping
Yeah,
and taking
yeah, they
turns.
want
on
one
It
and-
seems to work.
Yeah.
Pedestrians, it stops traffic. And people are nice enough to let.
Yeah.
I think
Every
we
time I
should-
go through this.
Yeah, I've never had trouble getting through.
I think we should put signs up that say, when the bridge is up, cross the street. Don't cross the street after the bridge comes down.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, but I was thinking that's where there could be problems. If the bridge is up and people just block that intersection.
Yeah.
And then the person that's going left that has no reason to go to the other side of Mystic is gonna get stuck there for a
Yeah.
while. Hopefully people are courteous enough to leave it open there, but.
I don't know if I've ever received any complaints about that though, myself.
I don't.
Okay.
I can't think of any.
So because we had an earlier motion to approve doing the no parking on the west side up to, what was it, Academy Lane or what was it?
It
No,
was
yeah, that's further down.
from, Yeah, between Burrows and High Lane.
High Lane. So I'll do a motion to have no parking on the west side of High Street from Burrows to Academy Lane and to continue parking on both sides north of that.
But I'll second that.
Aye.
Me too. The only other agenda item I see.
You want to do whoever public comment? you
Oh,
want?
yeah,
Tom,
sure, I'm sorry.
Tom, do you want to go ahead and give us your comment?
Sure. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Speaking of Mystic parking, since I live on Gravel Street in downtown Mystic, that's what I was going to chime in about, the Mystic parking study and related issues. So I appreciate you all for letting me talk about it. First of all, I want to commend the department and specifically Officer Ryan Brower, I think is his name. I'm not sure of that. He's the K-9 officer.
Yes.
Because we had a problem on Gravel Street with a driveway blocked on Wednesday, February 2nd, about 6:30, 7 p.m. And my wife called dispatch because there was a large black pickup truck blocking our driveway, which is, we have a rather large building. The site triangles, thanks to Mr. Hanover and Public Works, framed the driveway. The driveway is lit. There's a private drive sign, and yet this black pickup truck decided to park in the driveway. She called dispatch. Officer Brower responded probably within 10, 15 minutes. We chatted with him briefly, and he immediately called a truck to have this truck towed. So a tow truck came, and it was very difficult to get the truck removed. They were here about an hour, but they succeeded in doing so. So thank you for the quick response, Chief, and thank you to Officer Brower. I wanted him commended. And that's my main purpose in joining you today.
Well, I'll certainly,
Fantastic.
I'll certainly pass your comments and appreciation on to him. They will
And-
probably offset the comments he may have gotten from the owner of the truck.
Yeah, he tried to contact the truck owner, but to no avail. So I don't know if the owner ever got his truck back, but our driveway is pretty obvious. And, speaking of downtown Mystic and parking, we live downtown, we're residents, we get to know the people who are parking here every day. And this is the first encroachment that was so obvious. Officer Brower didn't even question it. He just immediately said, yes, this is blocking your driveway. No one can get in and out. And it's a shared driveway. There's probably 4 dwelling units, to use the planning and zoning term, that share this driveway. So it was affecting quite a few people. So I think the quick response by the officer, helped the situation immensely. And again, so Wednesday night in February. So that leads me to the discussion of the Mystic parking study. And I listened in last May as the consultant was talking to us. So I wanted to ask if there was any action on the Mystic parking study, and it appears that there may be some movement going forward. And I have to put in a plug for my neighbors who live on West Main Street and on Pearl Street and don't have parking. And they are residents of Groton. They have nowhere to park because it's the parking situation on the street is just preoccupied by employees of downtown businesses, which I understand, but essentially every morning I can greet the people who come and park in front of my house and work downtown, and they stay all day. There is no churn. So when Todd Brady talks about paid parking, I support that immensely. And the consultant recommended that also. I think we need to move in that direction because the prime spots in the downtown area and on the residence areas that are close to West Main Street, whether on Pearl Street or on Gravel Street, are occupied by basically either the owners of the business or residents of the employees of the business. Consequently, residents who live downtown in multi-unit dwellings have no place to park if they don't have off-street parking. So I am in favor of residential parking permits for downtown residents. I think when you start talking about the technology involved, you can do it without having slips of paper issued, just like as you can do with parking. So I think the town has to be creative in that way. And one problem that was mentioned in the Mystic parking study by the consultant, which is an ongoing problem, and I know I've discussed this with both the chief and Mr. Burt, is delivery trucks. Yesterday, I came back from a trip to the Stonington side of town, so to speak, and there was a delivery truck parked on West Main Street on Route 1 going north, somewhere around the ancient Mariner. And I mean the Mariner, so sorry about that, showing my age. And the truck was a Ryder delivery truck. I took photos of it that I'd be happy to share with you. It had Indiana plates. It was huge, you know, not quite tractor trailer, but about that. It was parked on Route 1 going north with his flashers on, making a delivery. He had the entire Route 1 lane going north blocked. And he must have been there 15, 20 minutes. And I walked around the block, he was still there. And all during this time, the loading zone on Gravel Street is empty. So I don't know what to do. And I think it's frustrating. That's why I think we need those community service officers downtown year round so they can direct their activities to doing something like this. Because I didn't call dispatch because by the time anyone comes, the truck will be gone. But delivery trucks, particularly large delivery trucks, are a major problem on Gravel Street, Pearl Street, making the corners, blocking the intersections of Cliff Street and Pearl and Gravel. And they come at all hours of the day. And, you know, I respect the downtown merchants. I actually shop downtown. I know a lot of the downtown merchants, but we need the merchants downtown and the restaurants downtown to coordinate delivery hours. Perhaps we could do it from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock on certain days, things of that type of nature. But the uncoordinated delivery truck action in downtown Mystic hinders the traffic flow immensely. And the consultant pointed this out, if I remember correctly, last May, saying it just backs things up incredibly when there's more traffic flow. And I appreciate that the traffic will pick up in April and moving forward to Memorial Day. But even in the winter, there's still, particularly on the weekends, an enormous traffic problem in downtown Mystic because there is nowhere to park. On your greatergroton.com website, someone succinctly said, I think her name was Sharon, she put in a comment saying, Mystic is full. We can't take any more people. And it basically has approached that level of difficulty. And I think the town has to come up with creative solutions about parking. I know the Mystic Art Museum is putting in a new automated parking system. And I think that's what we have to go to. And I think we have to realize that, I think it was your planning development director who said that there's no constitutional right to free parking. We have to charge for parking. And I think probably the town may want to consider a parking authority and if the town council wants to deal with parking, perhaps we need to create a parking authority, not to take away the power statutory that the state mandates in the traffic authority, but maybe a parking authority to help fund and funnel the appropriate technology through another ABC that allows you to manage traffic in congested parts of Groton and Mystic, et cetera. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
Sure, thank you.
Thanks for those points. And I think that the van or the delivery truck item was directly associated with the conversation we may have had, but we did ask them to look at that specifically. Thanks.
Now, with the changes proposed at the art museum, then that lot, my understanding is larger, like 18-wheelers won't be able to park in there. Is that right?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I wonder, how much worse is it gonna get? I know I'm getting a lot of, concern from that.
The only, conceptually, I agree with what he said, limiting the hours. I don't know in reality how possible that would be.
Because you schedule multiple,
Yeah.
yeah.
They're not all using the same vendors. This is probably one stop of a dozen they make during the day. So I think in theory, it sounds great, but in practice.
What's a block of road when there's the other one empty there? Yeah, that seems crazy.
And we do, I know the officer said it down there. I've experienced it myself and seen it and moved people along. I happened to go down to Mystic for some other reason and had to go to a business and say that needs to be moved, and they accommodated.
Right.
So.
Yeah, we definitely, I agree. We eventually probably need maybe not as many of those officers in the winter time, but maybe some,
Yep.
And then more in the summer.
We do have a couple of them working now, and I know last summer was our first summer with them, so we can continue to.
Right. And the town did ask for funding for the parking meters, et cetera, from the council last year. That was denied. They haven't bought into the paid parking yet. So that's also why we're doing the presentation to see if we can get something going in the new budget. So we'll see.
The only other item of business I have on here is review of the state plans and removal of horizontal curb signs on state roads.
So
Thanks.
here's my one.
Sure. So I received some correspondence from DOT on the 3rd, is that right? Sorry. Yes, yesterday I received some correspondence from DOT, basically a series of plans that the Department of Transportation sent to us to have a look at. I think they're just looking for the local traffic authority to review these. There's a lot of them. And to offer some concurrence. Department, I'll just read it. The Department of Transportation contacted municipalities concerning this project. It involves the replacement or removal of horizontal curve warning signs on state roads. The design plans are 90% complete. If you have feedback or questions, please contact us. And this is out of your Bureau of Engineering and Construction. I looked at them quickly. I don't have a lot of concerns or questions. Do you?
No,
You guys have any concerns
I
about
took
this?
a look at it. Most of it's on I-95 and down at off ramps. One in South Road, but they're all state roads. They're just replacing. So, yeah.
So
say again, what was the exact action they need from us?
he says if you have feedback or questions on these, please contact us. So I don't know that it was requiring any particular.
Just relay that we're fine with it. Yeah.
I will do one before we leave. I'm just looking up an email first for everyone's information, if I may. But this morning I was on a Zoom meeting with DOT and construction companies. But long and short of it is the Gold Star project, which is entitled the Steel Strengthening Repair Project. Actually began on February 1st. They've done some preliminary actions and site work. But they said that beginning April 1st is when they will start working on the northbound span. So they're going to be taking a right lane as well as the shoulder, and it's supposed to be for 818 days. So, don't hold your breath. It's going to take a while to get through it. So June 25th is their expected completion. June 25th, 2025 is when it's expected to be completed. They do expect to have some meetings separately with fire departments regarding safety measures and responses should there be a need for it. And there's also some impact considered to town roads. The one they mentioned in particular was Fairview Ave. So depending on where they need that shut down, it's partially in the city and then it extends into the town. So they'll contract with officers if there's a shutdown, but they said it would be alternating traffic, not complete shutdown. And then so they're starting on the right-hand side, taking the right lane and the right shoulder. And then when that part is done, they'll move over to the other side of the bridge. Again, on the northbound, taking the left side. I can forward this email to you guys if you'd like it. In fact, I should have done that before. So, but again, just to I guess just to put it on the record.
That it?
Motion to adjourn.
Yep.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
And it ends at 14:31.